Right, welcome to my little video. This is going to go with the advert, so all of the actual sort of facts will be written down, but the point of this video is to show you what I consider to be the worst parts of this van, because it's easier to show you in a video than it is to type it all out. And you might watch this video and listen to the worst parts and decide this van's not for me, and then you don't have to waste any more time reading and getting excited about it and then finding out the bad stuff later. So that's the way I'm going to roll with it. So some of it crosses over. I'm just going to give you a quick rundown and then talk about the worst points. So it is a 2015 18,000 mile T32, so it's the highest weight variant. It's long wheelbase, twin sliding doors, DSG gearbox, Highline interior, and then loads of other nice options on it. So that's the rough overview. I have owned this since new. Let's just do a quick run over the service history. It was full VAG service history until the warranty expired, and since then it's been a mixture mainly of an independent specialist, VAG Tech, who are based in Eccles near Manchester. They've done pretty much everything. I think I've got one service in the book I did myself last year, but anyway, they did a major 80,000 miles, including DSG gearbox service and water pump and cam belt. So that was all done by then. Anyway, I'll cover the service history in more detail later. That's a general overview. So the worst points, I'll cover them from worst to bottom, because like I said, you might hear the worst thing and decide this isn't for you. So there's a current issue with it, which basically I'm not intending to fix, which is drop links. So when I first got this van, I had it lowered by 40mm on H&R springs, front and rear. The rears ended up breaking. I forget at what mileage. I replaced those, but the fronts were good. And then probably only about 4,000 miles ago, I took it to a place down in Stafford, Stoke way. I forget the name of the guy, but that will be in the write-up. And he put on Coney Active Comfort, I think they are, dampers, retaining the same springs. Now, since he did the work, it never happened before, but since he did the work, this side has the drop link knock. So it only does it when the van is off sort of centre. So if you're turning and it takes a bump, it'll knock on this side. So obviously I'm a little bit pissed off about that. I took it back to him. They rechecked everything, retightened everything, and essentially gave it shruggy shoulders, saying they don't know why it's doing it, but it is. And then started complaining that the springs were, possibly shot, after implicitly saying no, the springs will be fine. So I'm a little bit pissed off about that. I ended up taking it to VAG Tech, the guys who always look after it. They had another look and they identified that the drop link on this side had been misinstalled and that the rubber was split. So they put a new drop link on and went through it all over. It still does it. Now, it's better than it was, but it's still doing it. And the guys at VAG Tech say basically the only way to cure that is to go back to standard ride height. So it's one of those things that I decided I can live with it, because I don't know about you, but the stance is pretty good. So I haven't done anything further with it. It's just something I'm aware of. If I'm turning, going over a bump, I slow right down, knowing that it's going to knock, but it's not causing any damage. It's just an annoying thing. So that's the worst issue on the van. And that's the only thing that I would say is technically wrong with it, apart from minor sort of paint defects. So other than that, I say it's wrong, but it's not currently causing any issues. It is engine and gearbox related. So this is the 180 PS, roughly 180 brake twin turbo engine, and these are notorious for having an issue with the oil cooler. So basically the EGR oil cooler is kind of all one unit, and the oil cooler assembly itself is really just bad quality aluminium, and what ends up happening is it starts shedding aluminium particles when it fails. Now, if that's not caught in good time, those aluminium particles can essentially go through the engine, gum up your rings, and cause your engine to fail. Now, mine did fail, and I started getting the warning message for it. I was just lucky that it failed in a way that this happened before any of those issues with aluminium particles getting released into the engine happened. So if anything, it was lucky it failed in that manner. Now, a new item is about £1,000, and you've got to take the entire front end of the van off to do it. So, you're talking about £2,000, and they're still shit. They still fail. So rather than pay to put on an item that I know is going to fail, I elected to blank it off. So you can see this blank in here, and there's another one where that coolant pipe went into. I forget where it lives now. But anyway, it's all been blanked off. And then what I did, oh yeah, you can see there's one there and one there either side of the oil filter. So then I also, when the van was new, I had it chipped, or remapped I should say, done by Mersey Speed, who are a VW van specialist in St Helens, I think it is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's St Helens. They basically did an eco-tune map on it, so I didn't do it for any performance reason. It's just for economy, you know, get around some of the emissions shite and get the engine running nice. So I took it back to these guys. That's been no problem. I took it back to these guys, and the EGR functionality has been deleted on the map. So there's no warning lights, there's no issues, it drives great. That's personally where I prefer to leave it. You know, if the new owner chooses they want to reinstate the EGR cooler and spend a few £1,000 doing it, great, but it runs sweet, there's no issues with it, that's good. The only other major issue I've had with the van was the DSG gearbox. So about, I've got all this written down somewhere off the top of my head, it was somewhere between 80 and 100,000 miles. I think it was about the 90,000 mile mark. Basically, I lost half the gear train. That's just out of the blue one day. And cut a long story short, it was one of the solenoids in the mechatronic unit that failed, and it meant that you're only getting half of the gear train. Now, unfortunately, you know, I'm a bit knocked off about this, and sort of, I'll cover this now. The way I've used this van, I've had it since new, and I basically used it as my daily driver. And I've been living up north and working down south, so it basically was just getting slung up and down the motorway. It's never had really any weight in it. At most it's carried like 100, you know, maybe 200 kilos of motorbike and gear, and given it's got a payload of a ton, that's very light use. So for the gearbox in this to fail, given it's supposed to be the higher rated unit that you get in the what's the pickup called, it's not the Touareg, it's whatever the VW pickup is, you know, it's supposed to have big payload capacity. So for that to fail when it's been very lightly used its whole life, I was pretty narked that. Anyway, cut a long story short, to get a complete new mechatronics unit, VW won't just sell you one, they want to flog you a whole new gearbox. It's something, I think they quoted me something ridiculous like 12,000. I took it to a specialist down somewhere near sort of, it's Hertfordshire somewhere. Again, I'll put the details in the link. They do these things all day long. They basically swapped out the mechatronics unit. It's a full VAG item because you can only get them off VAG. You have to have them coded by VAG. So VAG do sell them to some independents, and that's what I did. It's a proper VAG mechatronics unit coded to the vehicle. They've installed it and good as gold since then. That did have a 2-year warranty on it. I think that expired March of this year, just gone. But anyway, so no further issues out of that. So that's really the worst parts. So what I'm going to do now, there isn't any other faults on the van. I'll cover again all of this in the writing, but so it's had new shocks 4,000 miles ago. The rear springs have not been on very long. The front springs arguably could be compacted. That's what's causing that issue. But anyway, it's had a suspension refresh. It had new discs and pads all round. I did that work. That was about, again, 5,000 miles ago. They're full Brembos. That's new sidebars. It was serviced, I think, I will put all this in the write-up, got to stop saying that. That was serviced by VagTech back in March or April this year. So it basically wants for nothing. Yeah, that's really it. So what I'll do now is I'm going to run you around the outside. One more point to note is these wheels. Wasn't planning to sell this, I'm only selling it because I've just, you know, in the process of buying a house, which is pretty spendy. So I've got the original 18-inch Thunder alloys that I can supply with a vehicle. The tyres on those are technically legal, so you could drive it, but they are shot. They're all feathered and they drone horribly. These are 20-inch genuine Range Rover Stormers. I had a set on the vehicle previously, took them off and sold them, and decided to go back to them. So I've just got these. I've had them powder coated and checked, so they're like pristine, brand new tyres. They've only been on 1,500 miles, something like that. Properly spaced out, all that. I think you'll agree. They look really well on the van. They are just, for me, just right. But I appreciate that the new owner might not want them. So I will take them off and give the van with its original wheels. But if you want these wheels and tyres on it, you know, that's going to be an extra £1,000 on top, because I can sell them for £1,000 all day long. And sadly, this is just about money now. I need to, you know, generate as much as I can for the new house. So anyway, so what I'll do is I'll just give you a run round, having said all that, of the exterior defects. It's obviously 117, 18,000 miles. It ain't perfect. What vehicle would be? We've got a stone chip in the windscreen there. I had to go at repairing that last year. Probably can't get the camera to focus on it now. Let's have a little go. But anyway, it is MOT passable. It's already passed an MOT with it in it. It's not a problem, just making you aware of it. You know, minor, I'm getting the camera to focus on that. You know, minor sort of just wear and tear, wouldn't say corrosion even, maybe just starting on the wiper arms. It's still looking pretty good. So for the bonnet, of course, it's got some stone chips and some minor scratches. Some of that is just bug dirt that will polish off, but I mean, if you really want to be pristine about it, you might want to repaint that bonnet. What I would say, and I don't know how this happened, it's just got like these 3 shallow dents in it, as if they're like fingerprint marks, which they can't be. It must have picked up these dents somewhere. I don't even know if I can pick that up now. Can you just see those maybe? Well, there's 3, maybe 4 very shallow dents in there. Yeah, you can maybe just see them now. So there you go, that's that. Again, some more stone chips probably on the front bumper. Some of this is just dirt. I gave it a quick wash last night, but certainly would benefit from a clay bar. This is all factory paint, none of this has ever been repainted. The only area in the van that's been repainted is a tailgate, and I'll cover that when I come around to it. So yeah, just bits of paint lifting out now. Okay, this is I think it's an ABT splitter that I stuck on. It's quite nice. So I caught it there, and that's obviously gone down to the plastic. That'll just need a minor fill and a bit of a respray. I was going to get all these paintwork issues touched up on the van, but I'm aware that whoever buys it might want to convert it or, you know, wrap it or whatever. So I don't think it's worth me spending money on this. You know, I might get it back out of the purchase price, but on the basis that somebody might want to do something different with the van, not worth it. So I'm going to leave it as it is. That is an aftermarket cover, and the reason was when I took it apart to install this downward facing camera, which sadly water's now got into and doesn't work. It's a shame because it was quite handy for seeing the curb when you're parking close. I had to take all this apart, and also because I upgraded the head unit, there is a different DAB aerial in there. So that ended up falling off randomly, so I had to buy a new one, which is not long ago, hence, you know, the paint's perfect on it, but it just doesn't quite seem to sit flush. You might be able to improve that. It's not going anywhere, it's not coming off, but that's the way that is. These seals, I've just got a little bit of sort of, you know, what do you want to call that, moss and what have you, but they're still good seals, there's no issues leaking wise. Put these wind deflectors on, they are very nice. On this door, as I was cleaning it yesterday, I noticed there's a chip there which hasn't been touched up, so that's got a little bit of corrosion on it. And then when the van was new, I was getting all of this kind of under seal coming out of it, which again, that will come off with clay barring or maybe a machine polish. I mean, you know, if you want to make the paintwork on this van do, there's a little bit of work to do in a machine polish, it'll look lovely again. You know, I have always kept it clean and what have you, but 120,000 miles in 8 years. The sidebars are new because the road salt had got in it on one winter and started corroding them, making the van look a bit untidy. So they were put on, I want to say 6 months ago, it could be longer. I filled them full of all corrosion preventative materials and they went in. So they are still nice and fresh, and all the hardware that went up into there, that was all corrosion protected. Now, unfortunately, working down at Heathrow Airport, some scrope broke into it. They screwdrivered it straight through there. So that's got the armour plate on. But all the damage, all the sharp edges I dressed and cleaned up with corrosion preventative stuff. The handle, I'd actually gouged that really badly as well, so I ended up filling it and I smoothed it down fairly nicely, and then I sprayed it up, but I didn't clear coat it. I was in a rush to put it back together, so you can see the clear coats, sorry, the top coats come through on that and showing the primer, so that needs redoing. The other issue with that is that it's kind of like a bit sticky. See that? It doesn't snap back in, which can be a pain in the ass because it sticks out. You try and shut the door and it doesn't. So that's just something to be aware of. It's not a big fix, not a big deal, but I'm making you aware. I think there is a little inside to out dent. I don't know if you can pick that up. Yeah, just see that there. That's a minor little PDR tap. There's no actual paint damage there. If something's hit it from the inside, it's because the boards aren't on the inside. I'll cover that on the inside. Again, moved into a property with a low wall and sadly caught it. That needs a fill and a touch up, but the access is still there from the inside. It's one of the reasons why I haven't finished off that door. That carried on just across there. Again, it's just gone through the paint, so that needs a touch up there. You can just see a little corrosion blister starting to pick up there. There's one on the other side I'll show you to get round. Don't think there's any other issues on this side. You've got some very mild sort of bush scuffs, but that's just in the clear coat. Those will come out. Just noticed there's a little scuff there, which I can just feel with my fingernail. So that will need a bit of attention. Don't think it'll need paint, but I could be wrong. So that's pretty much it. I've just noticed there's moss growing in there. This one hasn't been off because I haven't done that door. So that just needs to come off to get the moss out, but other than that, that's all right. The one on the other side's got an issue, we'll cover that. Right, the rear spoiler is absolutely fine. This rear brake light was replaced under warranty. It's never quite sat perfectly flush. Need to give that a bit of attention. There's no other issues there. Right, this tailgate. So when the van was very new, I was backing up to a bush on my driveway, which didn't think was a problem. What I didn't know was the bush had only recently been cropped and had very thick branches just under the surface. So sadly, it dented it in a couple of places, and it actually pushed a hole in that bumper in one place. So that bumper had a plastic repair. It was mint. This tailgate had a full respray. It was mint, but over the years, because this was 5-6 years ago, they've obviously done a shite job and they haven't taken all this off to do it properly. So the paint started to come away in that corner. And a bit of mould build up around there. Again, that needs all taking off and redoing. All the paint around there. Again, if you wanted to make it mint, and now it's picking up other little defects. If you wanted to make that mint, and the badges came off, they never stuck them on properly, so they all fell off. So that's just the remnants of the thing. And all the bumpers now got a series of scuffs. It's not too bad this side. But yeah, it's got some scuff. You know, it's got some damage along the back edge that could definitely benefit from a respray. And then somebody's caught it with a shopping trolley, and that's continued to get worse. So that lower bumper could definitely benefit from the respray, and the tailgate, I'll stop saying could benefit from a replay. It's really up to the new owner. A couple of little minor marks there. And then this side, I did take that off because that door's been fully lined. And it only had about 3 clips holding it on. So when I put it back on, I put all the clips back in. And that's actually given it a load of depressions in it. So basically that needs to come off and have some clips taken out, and hopefully that metalwork will snap back into shape. Fairly minor. Down here, as I say, on the other side, but this one's a bit worse, got some corrosion bubbling through there. That needs some minor attention. It's just where it's stone chipped, get a little tiny scratch there. Most of this will, you know, all this minor stuff will come out with a machine polish, but there you go. Don't think there's actually any issues at all on that door. No, I don't think there is. And then on this door, I managed to open it into something, give it a ding there. I'm sure that'll come out of PDR. And I just noticed as I was walking past it this morning, there's a scratch there, and a very slight, can you see it there? Just a little ding there. Again, I'm sure that'll PDR out. Some minor sort of hazing there, but yeah, you know, I think for a van with this age on it, it's actually in pretty good condition. So that is an original, a couple of stone chips on that. Don't think there's any issues on this panel. Nah, and you know, and we're back to the front bumper again, which I've already talked about. It's got the upgraded daytime LED running lights and xenons and self-leveling and all that. Nice option with the heated wash jets as well. So that was one of the options. Okay, let's have a quick look at the inside. So I'll talk about the back first, because that's the other area that lets this van down. Right. Oh, apparently I've not got the electrics on. Good time to show you that there's an isolator built in down here. Yeah, knocked it off. I'm going to do it on autopilot. Right, so I'll run through the full spec later. What I just want to show you now, again, more bad bits. That door hasn't been lined. You can see it's got the silent coat decibel noise killer on. I've used way too much. There's no need to put that much on. But, you know, belt and braces. This was a van that I was going to keep for a long time, and I have, so I went for it. So it's all been soundproofed and back there. And then I've made up insulation bags, which I can show, which is basically the foil sprayed bubble wrap. I've used that to basically make bags, and that is wrapped around the recycled plastic bottle insulation, which doesn't rot. And so they're sort of in bags. So if you take off any of these panels, which are all carpeted, you'll just find the insulation bags back there. It's not stuffed full of loose insulation, apart from where you've got the cavities down there where you can literally only stuff it and never get it out. But I use the recycled plastic stuff so it won't rot like natural products will. So that's all fine. The biggest problem, I would say, the bed comes with it. If you want the bed, you know, that slides out to make a queen size, and these are memory foam that fit together. Anyway, the biggest problem is I installed these floor rails, which are not a problem. I love them, they're great. However, I thought cutting the mat would be easy. This is the factory floor mat. Cutting it was not easy, and as you could see, this is one job I'm ashamed of because I made a right pig's tit out of it. So I knew from the first cut it was bad, and I've already wrecked it, so I just went, you know what, fine. So just hacked it away, always intending to replace the floor. And again, was a job I was going to do, but I don't know what the next owner will do with it. And, you know, in a lot of ways, it's better to just leave it. There's no point me spending money on it and the next owner just rips it all up again. So that's what I'm going to do. I have all the materials to finish the tailgate, you know, the board, the carpet, the insulation, the glue, all of it. That'll all come with the van. You know, if whoever buys it gets in touch and they're not in a hurry for it, I'm quite happy to finish that job off. You know, I'm happy to do it any way the new buyer wants it, really, but I just don't think it's worth my while spending time doing it at the moment, given that the next owner might just go, no, leave it, I'm going to rip it all out anyway. So there we go. So basically, that's all the bad parts. Anything else to say is I managed to give it a minor scratch there in that little piece, which I guess you could always replace that if it bothered you. And then I was looking for this because I know it's there somewhere on the leather steering wheel. I managed to scuff it with a ring or a watch, but I was looking for it to just show it to you, and I can't even find it anymore. It's probably scuffed that long ago that it's so bedded down again you can't even find it again. The glove box is only sitting proud at the moment because I opened it to get something out, and that's still full of my crap. Right, so that all being said, okay, the seats, yeah, I mean, I managed to spill something with olive oil in it, I think, when I was driving and eating once. Excuse me, I've had a water vac on it. I've cleaned that several times. It's not getting any better than that, so that's got a stain on it. And likewise for the driver's seat, something grubby I was eating. Again, I've cleaned that a couple of times. That's just not coming out. So if that bothers you, you're looking at seat covers or, you know, a retrim. Again, somebody might be taking them all out anyway. Right, all that being said, that's all the bad stuff. It's not even particularly clean at the moment. So I've covered what it is. T32, long wheelbase, twin slider, tailgate, DSG. It's got the xenon headlights. What other factory options has it got? So as you can see, it's got a multifunction leather steering wheel. I got the heated seats are in there. It's got the Robusto heater. So this is the C-top water heater, which is stickers in the door jamb around the other side. So if you know what that is, you know, but short version is, it is a little heater that works off the diesel system. So it's all plumbed into the tank. You don't have to mess with any extra tanks. There were Basto stickers in the door jamb somewhere. I'll find it in a minute. So yeah, and what it does is it warms up the engine coolant. So it'll spend a few minutes warming the engine coolant. So it's got a battery that powers the electric pump that circulates the coolant around the engine. And then after so many minutes, it'll then flip. When it's warmed up that water sufficiently, it'll turn the blower fan on, so then it'll blow warm air into the cabin, so you can use it as a vehicle demister, and that's really nice, you know. So there's a little remote key fob for that, so you activate it off a key fob, and you know, even in the depths of winter, you come out 15 minutes later and the van's totally de-iced from the inside. Lovely, cabin's all warm. Also, I bought the remote kit for it. I just never got around to installing it. That's included with the van. That means you can bang a SIM card in this remote module and control it all off a Webasto app off your phone, so that's nice. On top of that, I put in one of the Chinese diesel air heaters. So that's one of the eBay jobs. I've got the bigger one, I think it's 8 kilowatt. So that lives in the cavity under there, which is where the factory ones would live. That is got the control for it down here. So that's the master control down there, and it's got a nice little remote, which I keep in one of the cubbies back here. So that is a little godsend, I've got to say. Yeah, it's down in here. There you go, so it's got a little remote as well. And the outlet for it, I've put it there, and it's got the swiveling outlet. Again, whoever buys the van might want to reconfigure it depending on what furniture they put in. That is ace. I've got to say, you know, they're noisy when they start up, but I did put the fuel pump on rubber isolators, so it's actually as quiet as you can get it. Right, what else have I done to it? Let's start at the very front end. So noise killing was a thing. I wanted to get this as nice and quiet as possible. So under the bonnet, actually, let's open it up again. So I've got all these products off one company. I think they're Noise Killer or Silent Coat. Anyway, so there's a full stick kit underneath this where you can't even see it. Then you've got the engine blanket back here, which cuts out a lot of the noise from the engine into the cabinet. That battery was replaced, I don't know, 2 years ago. That's the top spec. You are, sir. Big one, still under warranty. What else have I done? I put in cameras hidden into the badges there, and the control units for those are in there. To be fair, I just ran out of interest with that whole project, but they are still in there. I assume they still work. I haven't looked at them in years. I ended up just nicking the SD cards out of them for other GoPro stuff. So that's that. Don't think there's anything else to talk about in there, so I won't. We've already covered the bits on there, the wheels, the brakes. Yeah. Right. Secondary door seals, like the Caravels have, that cuts down on a lot of the door noise out of the wind noise out of the doors. Right. Up above there, that's got 10 millimeter closed cell foam pad, big pad of that, so that's absorbing a lot of noise out of there. That's just pushed in there because it's held in by itself. All of the jams behind all of this, all inside the door, that's all got the same silent coat on. The whole van's covered in silent coat, including the roof, and it's got closed cell foam up in the roof space as well. Then I've got a full noise killer mat kit underneath this carpet as well. So it's got the factory carpet that was upgraded from the factory, plus it's got all that extra kit in, and it's all down in here. So it's about as quiet as you can get it. And I've got to say, with brand new tyres on and the new shocks, it's really nice, you know. And people who ride in it comment on just how nice it drives and all of that and how quiet it is. So that's nice. Right, so that pretty much covers the sound insulation, the noise deadening, and I've already talked about the standard insulation. So yeah, right, that is a factory mod upgrade. It's got the cruise control. I paid extra for the extra side impact airbags and all that, so they're built into the seats. It doesn't come with a quad lock, but you know, still driving the van. Right, what else? So then we're getting into, okay, another thing to point out is when you get the Webasto heater. Yeah, I was looking for the sticker for that, wasn't I? Oh, apparently I have put the heater on. You can hear the pump running. Must have knocked the on button. Yeah, there you go. So if you can listen, just about hear the fuel pump knocking. They come on full speed and then they knock themselves down. As I fired it up, I'm going to let that do a heat cycle. It's not been on in a while. That's good to not stop them kicking out. Obviously, if you've got a Chinese diesel air heater in, you're taking your life in your hands. If you haven't got a carbon monoxide alarm, and there's a fire extinguisher there as well. Right, we'll talk about all that. Let's keep it front to back. Right, so I then wanted a nice stereo. So the original stereo came out. That's included with the van. That's a Pioneer AVIC, whatever DAB unit. Basically, don't worry about the nav. It's got a problem with the GPS receiver, so the nav kind of, sometimes it works fine, but it's so outdated now and they don't get updated. It should technically run Apple CarPlay, but it just doesn't. None of that works very well. I just use it as a very good quality head unit, and it'll do Bluetooth calls and all that, and Bluetooth audio streaming. So on top of that, so it's got the head unit, which is quite powerful by itself. I've got a nice, can't remember the name of it all now, but I've got a nice amplifier down there, which is actually mounted on this bracket down in there. So you can't really see it. What is it? A Dream 4, whoever makes that. You know, quality oxygen free cabling, all that sort of stuff. And then I've got replaced the tweeters in there, and it's got nice big meaty woofers in there on CNC wood collars, and it's got active crossovers all hidden in there. Very nice stereo, I've got to say. I'm very happy with that. It's kind of no point me turning it on because, you know, you're not really going to get much sense of the audio quality through my iPhone. I've got this switch in, so switch that way is the stereo switch to the ignition as normal. That way switches it to the auxiliary battery, so that'll come alive now. Right, factory fit, which is what I was going to say. The Webasto comes with an auxiliary battery. Shush now. The Webasto comes with a factory battery and a load of relays and stuff. Factory install is it's all down underneath here, but I've put this on a swivel plate, so it's got one of the Caravan swivels, so that'll turn around and face backwards. So what I did is I relocated all of the auxiliary battery and all the relays and everything from this seat to under the driver's seat. So all of that battery now lives under here, and if I pull this off, and actually I've ended up upgrading that battery, so that's a big gel AGM proper bad boy battery. And then all the wiring in there. There was extra wiring I put in, some of that's Captain stowed. I'll talk about this all on the thing because there's probably more than, you know, I want to go through right now. But anyway, it's all been done to a very good standard. I'm a aircraft maintenance engineer, and I've had a mate of mine who's a proper avionics engineer help me design it. But all of the wiring has been done, you know, with the proper independently insulated connectors filled with dielectric grease. None of that nasty, you know, all in one crimp-on rubbish. It's all been done with top quality gear. And I've installed, you can just about see it, and there's an auxiliary fuse board in there which runs all of the other electrics, which I'm going to talk about very shortly. So, as we're doing auxiliary power and it's all running off a battery, there is an isolator that I previously alluded to down there, so you can deactivate that and completely isolate the auxiliary system from the main engine system. So the main engine battery just does the engine. So there's a split charge relay. That was all factory fit for the Webasto, so we've adapted that. I've upgraded the battery, put an extra fuse box into it, all of that. Never had any issues with that because it was all done right. So I wanted a bit more power up front, because as it is, you literally get that USB socket, and that's what you get as a standard fit. So it's got these dual output USBs, which they are, what, 5 volt, 3.1 amps. So they're nice and powerful. They're backlit, which matches the red in there. They've got little caps in there. So they live in there, that's quite handy. So you can just keep your charging cables in there and charge yours and the missus and your mate's phones while you're going. So there's one in there and there's one there, which is nice and handy. I've also got, it's the details, right? Excuse my junk in the glove box. I also put an extra dual USB charger in there, so you can leave stuff getting charged in the glove box out of sight when you're parked up, locked up. Nice. It's just got the original mat there. I've never had anything in it, apart from an air freshener apparently, which I forgot that. There you go. I also, can't remember if this was extra or not, the extra armrest, so it's got the dual armrests on there. Oh yeah, and another thing that I'd forgotten about. My mate was complaining that the angle of this seat was too upright, and yeah, you can turn it around and swivel it, but what does make it fairly useful on a day-to-day basis, we'll get to this table in a second. These curtains are doing my head in. Right, if I just get this table out of the way. So it's got a little pull cord there. When you pull that, that whole seat drops forwards, bada bosh, and now you've got a little platform seat to sit on. That is an extra hinge. The standard one is included. I've got to unlock it. Hang on, hard to do one-handed. It's also got more angle on it than the factory one. So as you can see, it's got more recline. Again, comfy. I think I've exhausted boring you with the front end. I have got the extra chunky mats. I just took these out, they need a bit of a clean up. That was coming across there. Yeah, anyway, they've kept these carpets in pretty nice condition. This van's only had a very minor clean, just so I wanted to get this video before I start work for another 4 days. Right, so yeah, we have covered everything there. So, got these extra cargo nets up there, fire extinguisher, this rail, fine. These curtains are only cheapies, they're not full blackout. Okay, the popper's gone on that one, and then on the other side, the little stopper that stops it coming off the rail's gone, so that whole curtain drops off. Yeah, I'll get to that, and obviously you can pull them across and snap that. So obviously, as a panel van, it would have come with a bulkhead, which it now does not have. I took that out. And they're sort of solder bronzed on, cleaned all that off, protected it all with corrosion protection paint, so that's all fine. So I've already talked about the fact that that's on a swivel. You can turn around and face that seat inside. Just while I'm on the subject of electrics, I'll come back to that table. So the lights. So at the B pillars here, there, and then one of these at the back has got the light control for these spotlights. Bada bing. They're all again backlit in red, so when you're in the van you've got a nice little red ring so you can see that in the dark. Then more, got another dual USB, a 1 volt and a 2.1. Same again at the B pillar, same again back there. Both sides actually, yes, there's 4 more of them. Plus a 12 volt, same again there, same again back there, 4 more of them. And then this is a dual voltage and amperage. So it's only about half charge at the moment. I've not been using the van, 11.4 volts. Oh, yeah, you can just see that there. 50%. So yeah, sorry, it's not an ammeter, it's a load and voltage meter. So there you go, that's currently running the heater. Yeah, lovely. Right, so the table is one of these swing out tables, which I will probably struggle to show you with one hand. Just get the curtain out of the way. So there you go, you can see I've got the same setup down there with the USBs and the 12 volt socket and all that. So this bad boy, you know, I'm sure you've all seen this before, but I might as well show you it. Loosen that off, and you loosen this one off. And then basically you pull that out, you swap all this around, the table comes up to a nice working height for there. You can swing it around everywhere, you can even swing it right out of the van and use it as like a chopping board, whatever you want to do. I think, you know, they're fairly common. I don't really need to demonstrate that. You've all seen that. That's been put on anywhere I've put stuff in. I've drilled it and put it in with riv nuts. which is, you know, doing it the right way. So it's not just like self-tapping into the bare metal and what have you. Not done any of that. Everything's been riv nutted, so they're properly put in, holes drilled, then protected, paint, you know, and all that, corrosion protection, then riv nutted in. And so everything has got a nice solid thread that you can go in and out of multiple times. I'm sort of quite fastidious about stuff like that. Right, got a clothes roll there. Got a clothes roll there. I did also have one up there, but actually now that since I put this bench seat in, I'll flip this bad boy up and you've got a bit of like a sofa affair. And what that meant was just that, I'll show you me. Hi, this is me. There was a rail sitting right in your headspace, which is why I took that out. Right, we've also got these low profile rails with a load of straps. I'm mainly into my cycling, occasionally motorbiking, so it's just dead handy for strapping bikes and whatever to the side. Floor rails, as I said, these are low profile unwind jobs. They're mounted down. Basically, if you see a hole, that's because that and the other side of that is a box section. So it's blind access. So they're bolted in as many places as is possible. And I stuck them all in with a sealant that we call Thical, which basically I stick together aircraft fuel tanks with. It doesn't come off, you have to cut it off with a scraper. So that is, they're wet installed, which is basically you get it all over the whole bolt, push it in, the sealant goes everywhere, and then you clean it off. Therefore, you know that is fully protected. So they're good. So you've got a full length of there and another full length. Excuse my shoes, they are disgusting. Full length of there. So those two run full length, and then you've got two shorties there and there. They are great for bolting stuff too. So you can either hard bolt like these bad boys. I think these are like 10G load rated, or I've got the quick release sort of aircraft ones. I'll include all of those with it. Right, so they're in, they are nice. I also paid for the extra factory load lashing points, so there's 6 of those, 3 on either side. Oh yeah, and these as well, these were factory. So yeah, you've actually got 8 lashing points. Anything more I can bore you with before I move on down there? Only to say that, yeah, this door is finished. It's all just black lined. You can see that was done. I think I did that in lockdown when I finally got around to doing it, you know, picking the project up again. It was that as original, so some of that carpet's a little bit bobbly. You could shave it back if you're that bothered. Right. So we've talked about that. These rear wheel arches, I was getting a lot of noise coming through those. So these are add-on plastic covers, and then underneath those I put the same noise killer, and then I went over it with I think it was maybe only 5mm closed cell foam, and then stuck these on top. So that massively killed a load of noise coming out of the rear arches. So yeah, it is about as quiet as I believe you can make one of these. Right, so when I put these on, basically I made these cubby holes. So say this one's got the light switch in, and it's got, you know, the power, blah blah blah. This one doesn't have a light switch because it's like, well, why would you need on both sides? But it does have the power again. So these are basically just lunch, what do you call them, like little food boxes that I sprayed up with like a nice plasticized paint, and I lined the carpet in so they go down in there like that, and they're just super handy for holding little things like LED reading lights, the remote that I showed you. I think I've also got the hook in there. I've got the hook, yeah. Oh, if I can dig it out. That's wedged in. Not used this in a while. Come on, hook. Right, that hook. So you can put it in, it's either that way or that way, I can't remember. It's one or the other, but basically it lets you latch the tailgate onto that, but it stands it off. So the tailgate will lock to it, so nobody will open it, and you just kill the ultrasonics alarm as usual with the switch inside, but it means that you get a standoff. So if you are sleeping in hot weather, if you have the tailgate stood off but locked onto that, and then these front window, what do you call it, window deflectors, these are ace, because you can actually just drop the level of the window. I will show you. Just drop the level of the window like that. So from the outside, you can't really tell that window's open, but it means that if you've got both of those open and the tailgate, you get a nice bit of cross-flow breeze across the van. Try saying that. Right, I'll kill all that now as I'm just running the battery down. So yeah, so that's that. Just put all that back in there. Right, now then, tailgate wise, so bloody hell, needs a bit of a clean up. Anyway, so yeah, the lining is sort of the exposed metalwork lining's all been done. Just got the 2 panels to go on, and then other rubbish that's in here. I did have a GPS tracker, like a cheap one that I put in there. It was so cheap, it wasn't worth it. So the wiring's still installed for that, but I've pulled the fuse. I think that's powered spurred off a light supply, which is exactly the same light supply and distribution that is for the same spotlights as here. So what I wanted to do, and I probably will still do, is I've got the spotlights. I was only going to put 2 more in, like one there and one there. So when the tailgate's open like this, and you've got its own switch, then it'll be puddle floodlighting down here. So when you're under the tailgate, and I've got to be honest, it rains a lot in this country, having a tailgate's awesome for getting changed underneath, then it'll be a spotlight down there. So I've got all the parts for that, I just haven't done it. What else have I got going on in here? I did put the reverse camera in. That's obviously with the Pioneer head unit. When you put the vehicle into reverse, it shows you the reverse cam on the display. That's cool. I've also got where the VW badge is, yeah, another one of those bullet cams facing out, heading into the badge, like that. Again, currently not using it. Oh, yeah, so there's the bullet cam and the Pioneer reverse cam heading in there. And the only other thing is, because it was a panel van, there was no way to basically, if you were in the back, to open the tailgate from the inside. It doesn't come with a manual release lever. So I tapped in this button into there, which just releases the lock electronically. So that's a push button release to get out of the tailgate if you're inside the van. Right, what else? Little security thing is that bad boy, which basically locks the spare wheel in with like a locking wheel nut. So there's a separate locking wheel nut for that. And I think that's pretty much all I want to bore you with. You can just see the Coney shocks coming out. Did get an MOT advisory last year for this back box. Being in not great condition, you can see the outer skin is coming away there. So might need a back box, might get away with it for another year. I'm going to put it through the MOT shortly and we'll see how we get along with that. But if it passes the MOT, you know, I won't bother putting a new one on again, because a new owner might choose to put an upgraded stainless steel box or whatever. So not a lot of point me spending to put a factory one on. Right, I think I have bored you and myself enough. So that is just, you know, an idea of the issues and the upgrades. But, and while we're in here, what's that? 107,042 is on the mileage. I don't think it will go up appreciably. I might use the van a little bit occasionally, but you know, depends how quickly somebody buys it off me. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it right there. It's a lovely van, I've enjoyed having it. I'll be sad to see it go, but on to bigger, newer pastures. And yeah, any questions, give me a shout. And as I say, I'm more than happy to work with the new owner to either, you can have it as is, or, you know, I'll do any of the work outstanding that I've said. I'm flexible. I'm not in a massive rush to sell this. I'm not buying the house until the new year. What else can I say? Not a lot. I'm going to leave it right there. Thank you very much.